All right. Thank you. Um, Thank you for watching FBB Forum. For today's interview, I'm very pleased to welcome the stunning IFBB figure pro, DiPompeo. Is that right on the pronunciation?
That is correct.
Okay, cool. Julia has been competing in bodybuilding since 2016, and she won the Chicago Pro last year in 2022, and so she got to go to her very first Olympia last year as well. So, welcome, Julia, to the podcast. Really appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thanks. Excited to be here.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. I've been following your career for a while, so it's nice to get to talk to you and get to. I did see you live in
Right.
Chicago, and it was great to see you win in Chicago because you did a really great job there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Chicago was awesome. I live in Chicago, so to not have to even travel and have so many family and friends, it was just like the best experience. And then coming home with a win, that was definitely one of my most favorite shows I think I've ever done.
Oh yeah, no, you looked awesome there. I bet it was great having the cheering section there.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Just took all the like stress off of it. It was just fun.
That's awesome. Well, I'm going to start asking you a few questions about how you got started in bodybuilding. And I was curious if did you have an athletic or a sports background before?
Yeah, so growing up, I was a pretty competitive tennis player. My parents kind of had me started at a really young age, and that was my whole life growing up. I played all throughout high school, and then also when I was in high school, I just kind of wanted to pick up another activity, kind of just be a little bit more social in school. And so I ran track for a little bit. I wasn't anything too spectacular in track and field. I ran the 2 mile. I was kind of one of the only people that was willing to run the indoor track about 12 times to make that 2 mile.
That's a long
Um,
ways. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's a pretty boring event in track, but I just like to run. And that was kind of like really when I started getting really interested in just being into fitness and to just be fit. Um, so yeah, and then I went into running some races after high school, running a couple marathons, and then it all just kind of trickled down into bodybuilding.
That's terrific. Yeah, it kind of gave you a good base um,
Yeah,
in terms of competing too.
reading mindset, running, going out and getting yourself to run 20 miles to train for a marathon. It's a good 3 hour run all by yourself with your thoughts. And, little did I know that that kind of mental conditioning, though, would really pay off into now doing something completely different. But
Yeah,
it's all kind of the same thing, just that mental focus and mental drive and keep going, get addicted to the process until you finally reach your destination.
that's terrific. That's really cool. Um, I was curious, like, how did you get started in bodybuilding, and who convinced you to do your first contest?
Um, so I really kind of feel like I have no idea. I don't remember exactly the time or place it was that I decided to do a bodybuilding competition. I feel like I just kind of one day woke up and fell into it. Really, few years after high school, few years into college, I was running so much. My dad actually encouraged me to start kind of going to the gym and doing some strength training to just help with my running, prevent injuries. And I just didn't really know what to do in the gym. And he was the
Mm,
first person to just show me around the weight room, really basic. Um, my dad's not a bodybuilder or anything. He's just always worked out consistently and stayed
sure.
healthy. So when he started kind of showing me some things, I wanted to learn a little bit more so I could kind of just do it on my own. And at that time, I discovered bodybuilding.com and started just downloading a lot of the workout programs on there. And then I would kind of start seeing things about women's bodybuilding competitions. I was really kind of at that time the rise of bikini division kind of coming in. So they were really pushing, the bikini division. And I was just like, oh, that kind of looks attainable. And then I just kind of started learning more about there's other divisions in bodybuilding. In the beginning, I only knew about men's bodybuilding.
Sure.
So I think some of that was just like, okay, I didn't really know this was a thing. And then as I started branching off and going to the gym by myself and just meeting more people in the weight room and kind of realizing that this was a local thing, there started meeting some other girls that were doing local competitions and seeing them
Mm.
on social media. And I was like, you know what, I think I could do it. I'm going to give it a go one time. And I just did it. And actually, it's funny because after my first show, I was like, wow, I'll never do this again. I was like, no way do I want to go through that. But I remember within like 3 weeks after that competition, I was like, I got to do that again. I know I can do it better.
Oh,
I
I
know I
see.
can do this. I know I can do this better. And then so I was like, okay, let me give it one more go. And then
Uh-huh.
I did it better. And I was like, okay, we're going somewhere with this.
Yeah. So you got kind of addicted
And
to it a little bit, maybe.
definitely. And, and here I am 6, almost 7 years later, still going, still wanting more, still wanting to be better.
That's awesome. Yeah, you're doing a great job, and I think you've really progressed since you started, and working in figure and since you turned pro even. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, from earning my pro card to my pro debut, I mean, just a night and day difference. And
Yeah.
it's all just a result of just time, consistency, and the longer you do it, the better you get.
Yeah, definitely. That's terrific. I was curious when you first started competing, were you nervous on stage? And do you still get nervous these days, even though you've been doing it for a few years now?
I'm always nervous to get on stage.
Yeah.
It took me probably about until this year, really, that I actually got excited about being on stage.
Hmm.
I kind of think of myself as a little introverted, little kind of behind the scenes. You won't see me really talking on a camera much online or anything
Sure.
like that. So getting on stage in front of just people you don't know, and I mean even in front of friends and family, and them seeing me kind of in a different way,
Yeah.
um, is it's kind of hard for me to turn that switch on and
Yeah.
embrace that.
Uh-huh.
And my first probably 3 or 4 shows, I could barely even hold poses because I was shaking so much on stage, just so
Really?
nervous.
Wow. Oh, wow. Huh.
Yeah. And I feel like though the past, at the Olympia, even at the Olympia, I was surprised. Like I just kind of came up there and I was like, okay, this is just another day now. So
Yeah.
I'm getting a lot better. I still get the nervousness. But yeah, I mean, it's hard sometimes. Some girls are really good at it, and for me, it's always something I got to work on.
Sure. I understand that. I think that makes
Yeah.
sense for anybody introverted too, just be tough to be up on stage, but you're like really exposed up there, up on stage.
Right. And I mean, and it's a sport that you're judged on your body and your appearance and your posing. So,
Yeah.
it's all that work that leads up to that 2 minutes you have on stage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a lot of work leading up to those minutes on stage too. That's yeah.
Right. A lot of work for a little bit of time.
Yeah, that's true. That's cool. Thank you. For my next questions, I was going to ask you a little bit about competition prep, and I was curious, what is the toughest aspect of prep for you?
Um, Definitely the diet. Like So I'd say I become a little hyper fixated on food. I'm definitely one of those people. The second I know I'm 100% into a competition prep, that's when I start thinking about, all the things I can't have.
Yeah.
Um, that's kind of a funny thing that the sport does to us is we get a little hyper fixated on things like that.
Yeah, sure.
Um, and I've gotten a lot better with it as I've just been doing this sport longer and learning more about macros and still keeping a little bit of variety in my diet so it's not super boring, same thing for 20 weeks straight.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah. That the
yeah,
monotony of the diet would drive me a little bit crazy, I think. And if you can
yeah,
switch it up, that's nice if you can switch it up.
yeah. And I mean, and it's hard to kind of just be at social functions and,
Yeah.
there's food around and, and I have no problem staying away from it, but sometimes you kind of feel those are the times that I almost feel like the most lonely.
Yeah.
Um, because
Yeah.
you're just, it's crazy how much everything we do kind of focuses around food and
Uh-huh.
um, kind of just feel a little bit still left out when you're
Yeah.
at a wedding with your Tupperware.
Yeah.
Still have a good time, but there's still, those are the moments that I'm just like, wait a minute.
I understand.
This is
Well, you're kind of like voluntarily left out in a sense because that's your
right.
decision
Yeah,
too.
definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean. That would be tough though. I understand that. And yeah, so much
Yeah.
of our social lives is built on food and drinking or whatever, and you can't touch alcohol either, I'm sure. And so
Yeah. And then it's like, it's funny because you crave all these things during prep, and then after show day, you go and you eat those things, and it's just kind of like, oh, okay. Then you just go back to it. It's all just a mindset thing.
yeah,
Um, and, constantly in bodybuilding, you have to always be prepared when it comes to your meals too. So you're always just kind of thinking about it. If I'm
yeah.
leaving my house and I'm going to be running errands or whatever, gone for 4 hours, it's like, okay, make sure you've got at least one meal with you, but maybe two. And then it's like,
Hmm.
you're kind of thinking about the next day, and it's just like, okay, I got to do this. So I got to have this packed, and this is what I'm going to eat tomorrow. So,
Yeah.
it's really, really easy to just kind of get a little hyper fixated on that.
Yeah. I understand. I think it would be tough because you got the Italian beef shops down there for the sandwiches, and then
Oh, yeah, right. And in Chicago, it's just, it's one of the greatest food cities. And
yeah,
yeah,
I got the Italian beef with like cheese melted on it. It's like, oh, it's so good. Really
yeah.
tasty.
Italian beef with some hot chardonnay or hot peppers on it out here. That's
Yeah,
the way to go.
that's really good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the deep dish pizza too. That's really tasty.
Yeah. And um, even like her thin crust pizza. I mean, deep dish, that's a whole meal in itself. You
Yeah, it
eat one
is.
slice and you feel like you ate a brick, but I mean, I love that.
Yeah, that's some tasty stuff. Yeah. That'd be tough though. Yeah, it's competing and you can't really eat that stuff. But yeah, wait till after the competition.
Right. And
Yeah.
then it's funny, like when you're getting ready to compete, it seems just like everywhere you turn, all of a sudden you're like, oh, I didn't notice this restaurant or, this. Now all of a sudden my Instagram feed seems to be desserts out of nowhere, like
Oh,
where it probably always existed, but I just never paid attention until then.
yeah. Oh, you had your blinders on before, so.
Right.
Uh, no, that's cool. Um, I was curious, like, do you have a hard time dealing with that transition between competition shape and off-season shape? And as a fan, I like all the phases that female bodybuilders go through, but I know and it's come up a lot on this podcast that it's really can be tough for the women to do that transition. But how does it feel for you?
I have a really hard time with it sometimes. I mean, I have my good days and bad days. It's usually, I'll tell you, kind of actually right now, being about, I think I'm 8 weeks post Olympia right now. So
Mm.
now is when my body is kind of settled into that comfortable, maintainable weight, where I can perform the best in the gym, feel my strongest, but it's
Mm.
pretty different from my, you know, peak week, 2 week post show, show look, and it's
Yeah.
hard,
Yeah.
because you work so hard for something that can only last for such a short period of time.
Yeah.
And
It's true.
so one of it, it's just like I've put in so much effort and I don't have this physically to show anymore.
Hmm.
And you get a little like a little bit of that body dysmorphia too after seeing yourself at this like such extreme,
Yeah, I
something
understand.
that you should be sitting at. So it kind of,
Mm.
messes with you. And I mean, I have, um, some days I have a hard time looking in the mirror,
Mm.
wanting to take a shower because I
Mm.
don't want to accept the way that I am. And, but, other days I know that's ridiculous because the way
Yeah.
that I am right now, I'm throwing crazy weight around in the gym. I have so much energy. I
Yeah.
feel good. And like my body physically is happy. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
do you want to be tired and miserable and just doing lightweight high reps, or now at least I really enjoy the heavy weight and kind of powerlifting stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, so it's just gotta kind of step back every now and then when you're like having that hard time, like embrace it. you know
Yeah.
both variations are doing incredible things.
Oh,
And
yeah, definitely. And it's really not safe to be lean year round too, or like competition lean, I think. I don't think that's really all that great for your body either.
oh no, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, your joints need a rest. And yeah, I mean, our bodies are designed to hold on to body fat for a reason. So
Yeah. No, I think, and it is interesting that's it's just a very common thing. And would you say it's more common with women than men with that body dysmorphia in terms of bodybuilders, or what do you think?
um I really only know from like a woman's perspective because I mean I've talked to, I say this happens to just about every woman bodybuilder,
Yeah.
to some extent. Some more extreme than others. But I would imagine for men it's got to be just as hard.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
and especially too when you're kind of coming off a show and you're putting more weight on. If you're in bodybuilding and now you're kind of going into your off season, it's hard too to accept that because it's not really exciting. At least when you're in a
Yeah.
competition prep, every week you're seeing a change in your body, and now you're kind of going backwards, and it's like,
Hmm.
what am I doing this for? It's a little harder to stay motivated when you're,
Yeah, sure.
yeah. So I would imagine men would have just as hard of a time.
Yeah, that
Um,
makes sense.
yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Thank you. I was curious, what advice can you give to aspiring pros or who people who want to be pro who are kind of struggling with competition prep?
Um, so like those that want to become pro.
Hmm. Yeah.
I mean, it's really just I see or know so many people that the local NPC competitors are like, I'm going to go to nationals. I want to turn pro, and they've done maybe two qualifiers, one qualifier, or whatever, or they've done nationals 5 times, but they're placing, you know, below 10th place or something like that. It's
Yeah.
just to put in your time.
Yeah.
And it's just because you're qualified doesn't mean you're ready to go to nationals.
Yeah.
Like,
Sure.
take a look at these national shows and who's winning. Take a look at what pros look like, and compare yourself to that, because if you don't think you're relatively close to these pros, then what makes you think you deserve a pro card?
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Mm.
and I remember I was winning a lot of local shows before I went to nationals, and a lot of those local shows, people would be like, are you going to go to, whatever national show is coming up next? And be like, no. And then I was
Mm.
like, I'm not ready. Like, know
Hmm.
when you're ready. And I'm glad I waited, because I waited until I felt like I had a pro level physique.
Yeah.
And so my first national stage, I got up there and I won the overall. And that was, if I had done it a year before that, I probably wouldn't have gotten my pro card.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
and in this sport, it's like the longer you do it, it's just the better you're going to get. And there's no rush into it.
Yeah, that's
And
true. Yeah.
it's like you get your pro card, and the pro league is, it's a whole different ball game now. I mean,
Yeah.
really, you kind of have to be more on it than ever, your
Hmm.
diet and consistency. um so it's just like, are you just doing it to say you want to, to just say you turn pro, or do you want to be a pro and what it takes to be at that level?
Yeah, that's true. And the Nationals is a really tough show. I think I saw you turn pro at Nationals. Was it in Orlando?
Junior nationals. So in
Oh.
2019, that was actually in Chicago.
Oh yeah.
So
Okay.
again,
Cool. Oh,
yeah,
it's
I played
Chicago
that out
again.
so I wouldn't have to travel for that either.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's really nice actually to not have to travel for a big show like that because you're um, being in your hometown and makes life a lot easier, I would think, for especially when you're in prep like that.
Oh yeah, I mean, traveling in prep is, it's stressful. It's because, I mean, you need to be, make sure you have everything in your food, and trying to get your security at the airport with your meals is always a challenge. I always get flagged, and then they open up your cooler, and it's like tilapia, and it's like, sorry, frozen tilapia in there, and bags of rice.
Uh-huh. They're
Yeah,
like, what is this? This is kind of weird. Yeah.
yeah,
They think you're smuggling cocaine or something like that.
right. And they're like, oh, this is kind of gross.
Oh man. Um, I was curious. For my next few questions, I wanted to ask you about coaching, and I was wondering, do you have a prep coach now, or do you have, and also do you have a posing coach?
Yeah. So my prep coach is Damian Segovia. He is located out of Arizona with the Pro Physiques prep team. And we've been working together. We're kind of going on our third year now together.
Mm,
Um, and really hit it off with him. Like, mentally, he's been the most supportive coach to really, like, really figure out what my mental struggles are as I'm going through prep, and work
okay,
through that. We
great.
have, yeah, great relationship. And then my opposing coach is actually Sydney Gillen.
Oh
And
yeah.
she's actually, yeah, and she's actually prepped by the same coach, Damien, as well.
Oh, very cool.
Um,
That's awesome.
yeah, so all like teammates in that aspect. And Sydney, I started working with. Yeah, this will be my third year with her as well.
That's great.
Um,
Oh,
yeah.
I bet it was cool to be up on stage with her at the Olympia.
Oh, it was, and actually, just from her being my posing coach, and just like her presence kind of backstage was was kind of like calming. It was kind of, surreal experience because, I've been a fan of Sydney's for years.
Yeah, she's
And
awesome.
then, you know, start working with her and you just kind of get to know her. And I mean, she just really has like the best personality and, just really a supportive posing coach. And,
Yeah.
then all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, I'm right here with you.
Yeah.
Um,
I bet that was
yeah,
awesome. Yeah.
really awesome.
And yeah, she's really impressive. It's great. I think how many times has she won the Olympia now? I know it's
She just hit number 6.
wow,
Um,
that's amazing.
yeah.
Wow.
And I mean, her just stage presentation, hands down, is just the best. Like,
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah, she is. She's very pretty and her hair and everything and makeup looks really good. Yeah, she's really
Yeah.
amazing. Um
Yeah.
I'll have to reach out to her, see if she'll be on this podcast too.
Right.
Uh, I was curious. One thing I want to mention is what I'll include your coach's Instagram info as well as yours down in the comments section when I post this to YouTube, so that folks can look up info on those coaches.
Yeah.
Um, so I was wondering, what advice can you give to up and coming bodybuilders that are looking for a coach?
So I think it's really important to, when you're looking for coaches, to find somebody that you can have just an overall good relationship. Um, it really does get personal once you start prepping because bodybuilding, really kind of requires a lot of sacrifice, but at the same time, you have to still keep going with life. So you need
It's true.
to have somebody, first of all, that you can openly talk to about, you're having a hard time, from an aspect of you're having a hard time with your family and your support system,
Yeah.
to you're having something going on with your health, open and honest about,
Hmm.
what's going on with your body. So it's just important to like, when I was looking for, before I found Damien, when I was looking for a new coach, I talked to a lot of coaches and, um, Damien was just kind of the one that I was just like, I can really see myself working with this person. And
Yeah.
I had a list of questions too. I'd say definitely have a list of questions that you should be asking your coach about kind of what their diet protocol looks like,
Hmm.
um, you know, what the supplementation looks like. That's probably one of the biggest things.
Yeah.
Know what you're comfortable with when it comes to running gear. If you don't want to take gear, you don't
Mm.
have to, and a
Sure.
coach shouldn't tell you you have to in order to step on skate on stage. I mean, it's ultimately your body, and I mean, if it's a route you want to take, you should also kind of say, "Hey, I'm a female physique competitor. You know, general idea of what do you think you'll have me run? Okay, well, what is that? What is that going to do to me?" And that's kind of a
Yeah.
test to see what their knowledge base is on that.
Hmm.
Because
That's true.
I've, heard of a lot of people kind of just doing whatever their coach says and not doing their own research, and their coach is just throwing drugs at them
Mm.
instead
Yeah.
of, and it's not always necessary.
Yeah. I
So
understand.
run away from that.
Yeah, that's not good.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to worry
Um,
about your health, and I've heard it mentioned a few times on this podcast too that you have to kind of watch out for yourself, and if something doesn't really feel right, or maybe don't do it because it's gonna be really bad for your health in the long run, maybe, or even in the short run.
right. Yeah, because I mean, like, I think of my coach as kind of like my boss. Like,
Yeah.
this is my job, and in a sense, I mean, it is all on me. I do pay him for his help, but I still treat it as like I am told to do this, so I'm going to do it.
Hmm.
So it's just important that you find that coach that you trust, because, you know, if he's going to tell me, you know, to do something, then I'm going to be like, okay, that's what you're telling me to do to make me a better competitor. I'm going to do it.
Yeah,
Um,
sure.
so,
That's a good way of looking at it, I think. And yeah, so it's a boss that you're paying. So instead
right,
of
essentially. But
yeah, no, I understand that. That's really good advice though. Thank you. I wanted to mention too, I know, we talked about you live in the Chicago area, and do you find that you have a supportive bodybuilding community there in Chicago?
I do. I'd say actually the Illinois just bodybuilding community is really, really a great community.
Hmm.
Lately, in the past couple of years, I've seen a lot of the local coaches really kind of starting their own competitions in the area. There's been a few shows added around here. There's a lot of really great local bodybuilding gyms. Um, and there's a lot of great competitors that are coming out of here. So, yeah, I mean, I'd say Chicago is a bodybuilding city for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chicago Pro is great. The only thing I didn't like about it was it's like way down in Tinley Park. It was like kind
Yeah,
of
it's not in Chicago, and that's definitely a bummer for those that are traveling from, you know, far away, and they're like, okay, cool. Oh wait, I still need to drive at least 30, 40 minutes to actually see any of the city.
I know, it's a long ways. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, Tinley Park isn't really all that exciting. It's like
They're not even like
either
sidewalks down there, like can't go for a walk and stuff. So
no, no, it's really just the convention center, and then there's an amphitheater, and that's about it going on down there.
yeah, I'm like,
Yeah.
but no, that's cool though. That's a supportive community though. And it is such a big city. I think wherever you have a big city, you're probably going to have a good base of people bodybuilding and training, I would think. So, um,
Yeah.
I was curious, and this is next few questions are about competition, and I was curious when and where do you hope to compete again? Because you always look great up on the figure stage. So just curious.
Yeah, so I've been taking, you know, these past couple months to just sit back a little bit. I started prep in March of last year and kind of kept staying in that competition mode until December when the Olympia was over with.
Yeah.
Um, so I've kind of just taken a little bit of a step back for right now, and I'm thinking I'll probably shoot for something in August or early September.
Hmm.
You know, the very first show that I would maybe consider would be Tampa, but that actually might be a little early for me still.
Sure.
Um, so I believe there's something, I think it's San Antonio in September, and I think maybe something in Daytona around there.
Hmm.
Um, so nothing really set in stone, but I know probably come very early spring, I'm going to be ready to kind of get back into that competition mode again. And
Great.
yeah, they moved the Olympia up a little earlier this year to the first weekend of November, which I think is perfect.
Yeah,
Um,
I think so
versus,
too.
versus the week before Christmas, like that was a
Yeah,
lot too. That was a lot.
I know. I think
Um,
that was really tough on competitors because they had whatever family plans or whatever they had kind of got messed up a little bit, I think.
Right. And I mean, it was just stressful too, because you're getting ready for the Olympia, but you know, like as soon as you get home, well, then it's Christmas. So you
Yeah.
kind of got to be ready for that. I was stressed out just making sure I had Christmas gifts already settled and purchased for everybody. And
Yeah.
yeah. And so this will be nice to just be done and kind of ease into it. And then it's also hard, you know, we're supposed to start reverse dieting once you get home from Vegas, but then it's the holidays, so it's like pretty
Yeah.
hard to properly reverse when you've got, you know, Christmas dinners and
Uh-huh.
Christmas cookies everywhere. So
That's
yeah, this
true.
will. I think this will help us all out in the long run.
And I will say I encourage you to do Tampa so I can yell for you because I live in Tampa anyway, so I'll definitely be at that show.
Right.
So.
Yeah. And I mean, I love the Tim Gartner Wings of Strength production shows. They
Yeah,
always do such a good job. So that
that's
is
true.
one that I'm still considering. Just kind of seeing what my timeline's going to be.
Tough problem is
Sure.
it's just hot as hell and super humid and stuff. So, and possibly a
I mean,
hurricane too. So,
yeah. Oh, well, I mean, I'll take the heat anytime. Right now in Chicago, I mean, actually, we've had a pretty decent week this week, but we've got a lot of snow coming next week, and I hate
oh gosh, that's not good.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'd rather be in too much heat than be cold.
yeah. I like the perpetual green here in Tampa. It's nice. It's always kind of nice here. So,
Yeah, yeah, right now it's pretty gray and everything's dead and yeah,
yeah, that's no fun.
right.
I was curious in terms of what feedback are you getting from judges in terms of where you need to improve your physique?
So it's always year after year just trying to build up my upper body to match my lower.
Hmm.
Specifically, it's more looking for a little more width in my lats. Um, and think up in my shoulders a little bit. I'm just so lower body dominant
Yeah.
and just well developed that it just kind of even like pulls some attention away from my upper body.
Hmm. Sure.
So definitely growing the lats. And also, it's like a lot of these figure competitors, they've got the tiniest waists. Like it's
Yeah.
mind blowing. And really to create that illusion, you've grown your lats and it'll make your waist look smaller. So
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, your legs are really dominant, I think, on stage. And but yeah, I think yeah, I could see where increasing your lat width would be helpful for you. But you always look great on stage though.
thanks. Yeah, I would say probably this year was, I mean, best my physique has looked, and I think this was the most satisfied I've been with my upper body was this season than
Yeah.
any others.
No, I think you look great up there. And I think you did look more balanced too this year or this past year.
Yeah.
So yeah. In terms of your physique, what's your favorite muscle group and what's your least favorite?
So my favorite is definitely my quads. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, even from my first season of competing, I feel like my legs always just kind of stood out. Um, being a competitive power lifter as well, I've always just kind of dominated in the squat. I've always been just really strong in my lower body.
Yeah.
And I feel like the definition or density that I kind of have in my legs, quads mostly, but kind of like stands apart a little bit from the other competitors in the figure division.
I think
Like
so too. Yeah.
just a different kind of conditioning that I have versus the other ones. So I say that kind of actually makes me a little more unique.
Yeah. That's
But
true.
yeah, and I'm always hating on my back because I just want it to grow.
Yeah. I understand.
Yeah. Um, if it's not like the width of my lats that I'm nitpicking, it's the density.
Uh-huh.
And I think the density has really picked up quite a bit. Um, but still just always trying to make it stand out as much as my lower body stands out for
Yeah.
sure.
Sure. I understand. Um, that's kind of leads to my next question. Um, with when you mentioned your legs standing out, have you ever considered going to the women's physique division? Because I think you have the muscularity and the conditioning needed for that division, but I didn't know if that was something that would interest you.
Yeah, like from time to time, I have kind of entertained that thought. I mean, the women's physique division was actually the one I really liked the most before I got into bodybuilding.
Yeah, sure.
Because I mean, they've got so much more variation in their posing and um, just a really muscular division.
Hmm.
But and some of it's like, I do think I have the potential to do it. Um, but I feel like each division also has a personality that comes behind it.
Yeah,
Um, and really, I feel like I've just kind of found a home in the figure division because it's um, just being pretty, but still being muscular. It's just more natural, coming out and just hitting a couple poses. It's kind
yeah,
of just a better flow. I mean, women's physique is just as beautiful, but it's a harder look,
yeah,
and a different kind of presentation that I don't really, I don't really know. We'll have to kind of see though as I keep like growing because
yeah.
um, my first year, I mean, I remember being told like, "Hey, you're probably going to grow out of this division."
Uh-huh.
But I mean, you compare the figure girls from 6, 7 years ago then to what they are now. It's like some days I'm like, I'm trying to keep up with the muscle in the
Yeah,
figure division.
I understand.
So,
That's true.
yeah.
The do you find it the nice thing with doing physique is you could dump the heels because they're probably not that much fun to
Yeah, like that's definitely a big selling point. Like I never wear heels unless it's really on stage. So it's
Yeah,
such an unnatural thing for me that I've really had to practice and work with.
sure.
So
I
I would be
understand.
fine with ditching those. That's for sure.
I like physique too because you get to do your posing routine too, and there's a lot of creativity kind of built up in that too. So I think that's neat.
Yeah, and they're kind of showing off a little bit more.
Yeah, it's
Um,
true.
it's cool. They get to like still do a side chest and side tricep and
Yeah.
uh, figure. We're just really just kind of making a picture pose.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, so
Yeah. Well, it'd be cool. I would support you switching, but I think you're doing great in figures, so maybe stick with figure too. So,
yeah, we'll see what each year brings. You
yeah,
know, yeah,
definitely.
because I get asked that quite a bit.
That's really cool. Yeah, yeah. And like I said, your legs just really stand out, and yeah, I think your legs on the physique stage would like really, really stand out. I think so. Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see.
Yeah.
Now, my last few questions are just kind of miscellaneous, and I just had a few questions. I was curious if you were in a leadership position with IFBB or NPC, what would you do to improve the sport of bodybuilding, and what would you do to try to make the sport better?
I would just say a little bit more equality through the divisions
Hmm.
is something I would kind of like to see a little bit more of. I mean, really, certain divisions bring in more money, of course,
Yeah.
but the, I'd say for the women's side, women's figure and physique, well, and bodybuilding, of course, were so far less popular than the bikini and wellness divisions.
Yeah.
And those are the two newest divisions, and they're the ones kind of getting a lot of the promotion, a little more hype. So it seems a little more glamorous, a little more exciting for a competitor to want to be into something that's more popular, but
Yeah.
it's the more, even more muscular divisions, figure, physique, and bodybuilding, that were the originals and kind of set the standard of
Uh-huh.
bodybuilding. And it's kind of sad to see, us, we're kind of getting faded out, in
Mm,
bigger competitions. They're not having our divisions anymore,
I
or
know. Yeah.
our divisions get paid significantly less in shows than,
Hmm.
the men's divisions.
That's true. Yeah.
And again, it is understanding in a sense as to, the money coming into these shows are for these specific divisions, but
Hmm.
let's make it something that, you know, more competitors want to go into the figure division, and then all of a sudden, then that's going to make that division more exciting and people want
Yeah.
to go see it.
Hmm.
um so it's definitely just promote them all equally.
Hmm.
More equally would be the most ideal.
Yeah, totally. I understand that. Um, no, I'd agree with you on that. Seeing more equity and prize money would be kind of nice too, for sure.
Yeah,
And
and that's another thing too, to just kind of have a little bit more, prize money at the
yeah,
end. I mean, I'll kind of use some of that. But I mean, really, you get into bodybuilding because you love it. You don't do it to make the money. But,
yeah,
um, you know, at the end of the day, though, it's not even covering the cost of the expense to
yeah.
get to that stage point. So, that makes it hard too. It's
Hmm. That's tough being a pro. Yeah, and the money flow is in reverse, basically,
right.
because yeah, you know what I mean? It's just, yeah, that's really tough. I want to say too, I was kind of disappointed that the Arnold drop figure, and I couldn't believe that they had dropped it, but I was like, I don't know. I was just upset about that.
Yeah, definitely. And, it's like, and they have bikini and wellness, and they're both, you know, they're all great divisions. I really love seeing the wellness division. I think that's such a cool look.
Yeah, I do too.
But what's sad to me though is, I mean, me, like, bodybuilding is bodybuilding, so it's working on symmetry, muscle, but looking at your muscle belly's fullness, definition.
Hmm.
Um, and in those two divisions, it's not quite all of that. I mean, they have their own
Hmm.
criterias.
That's true.
Um, so, something as big as the, Arnold International competition, take away like the muscularity, the more muscular divisions
Hmm.
in women's bodybuilding. It's sad to see.
Yeah, I know. I was
Uh,
really disappointed from a fan perspective too, and
yeah,
yeah, so and it's less opportunity to qualify for the Olympia when they're taking shows away too. So yeah,
right.
so yeah, it's not good.
But I mean, I know Sydney and Whitney Jones,
Hmm.
and I gosh, I can't think of it. I know they started working on a show that's gonna come out in 2024, which is gonna highlight figure fitness, women's physique, you know. So some of these bigger names, previous Olympia winners, are kind of looking into that and seeing like, okay, well, if these, big competitions no longer want us, well, we're going to create our own shows now. And
That's
they're
great.
kind of, yeah, trying to do their part to bring it back and get
Yeah,
people excited about our divisions again.
that's terrific. That's really good that they're doing that. That's yeah, um, and that's yeah, kind of competitors, kind of I don't know. kind of taking care of themselves too, to help out. Yeah, I like that.
Right. And I mean, even if you look at like the IFBB schedule, and you see kind of like the list of bikini competitions for the year,
Mm-hmm.
there's 50 shows, and then you look at, the figure list, and it's 20, 30 shows. So,
Yeah.
like, okay, let's balance this out because,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, now you're going to have 50 bikini Olympians, and there's going to be 20 of us. And that's because, you can already see
Mm-hmm.
the
Yeah.
variance in our opportunities.
Yeah, that's kind of a shame. Yeah, it's not. I don't know. It's a fairness issue too, I think. So, um,
Yeah.
yeah. I was curious. When you're out in public, do you like to show off your muscles in public? And I know you're in Chicago, so you can't always do that. Or do you prefer
Yeah.
keep them covered?
Um, no, so I mean, yeah, right now it's definitely tough. So not too much of it getting shown off because definitely bundled up. But
Yeah.
no, I like to show it off for sure. Um, really, if I'm going to an event, I'm gonna look for a dress with an open back because I want to, show
Yeah.
that off, show off my arms. When it's warm out and I'm in the gym, I like to just, wear shorts and a tank top or something.
Sure.
I'm training a muscle. I find it motivating to kind of look in the mirror and see your pump, and that
Yeah.
makes that's exciting to me. But sometimes I got to be also a little strategic though about being covered up because
Yeah.
uh, you get stopped all the time, and it's cool. But sometimes you're just not in the mood for that, especially like
Yeah.
at the grocery store is the worst. Summertime, I'm going to the grocery store in my hoodie because it's one thing for somebody to come up to you and say, "Oh, you look great," or you know whatever. But when you're in a grocery store, people instantly think that's their opportunity to ask you everything about diet, and
Oh, yeah.
you and it's like you want to be polite,
Uh-huh.
and they're going to ask you about what you're grocery shopping for, and then you spend 10 minutes talking to them, and then you see them later on in the down the aisles, and they got their little debbies in there, and it's like, man, I just wasted 10 minutes, and you took nothing from that. So
Yeah. Little Debbie's aren't so good for you, no.
yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah, but it's definitely, yeah, being a female bodybuilder, it kind of depends on your mood. If you just really don't want anybody to come up to you, you got to be covered up. But
Yeah.
um,
That's true.
yeah,
I could see
you will
that
be stopped.
wearing the hoodie in the summer makes sense, though. Yeah, just because, especially if you have a lot to do that day, you don't want to, because it could take up your whole day talking to
Right,
people.
especially if you're in prep. If you're in prep and you're going to the grocery store, you are going in with a mission. You know exactly what you're going to get, so you can
Yeah.
get on out of there. Um, and it's like people are testing you right there at that moment.
Yeah, I bet.
Stand in front of the bakery and you're next to a box of cookies, and like, let me go, let me grab my chicken and run.
Oh,
Like,
yeah, that's true. That's a
yeah,
whole room full or building full of forbidden food there too. So,
yeah. So, like I said, that's my biggest struggle. So,
um, you mentioned a little bit about having your cheering section there, but what do your parents and your siblings and other family think about your bodybuilding journey? And are they supportive of your path, your fitness journey?
they definitely are. They always have been. At first, when I kind of brought it up to my family that I wanted to do it, they were a little weary of it because they were more concerned about my health, my mental health, kind of going through something like being judged on your body, but they
Yeah,
never stopped me from trying.
sure.
And the first couple seasons of bodybuilding, like I'd say my immediate family didn't really understand they kind of understood, like, okay, well, she's got to do her own diet and her own thing, but there'd be times where I'm just tired and cranky, and they just would be like, well, then why are you doing this? And
Mm.
I'm like, this is just a temporary process.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm.
and, that's kind of caused like some issues here and there. I mean, they're in the beginning, I kind of tell my parents, you know what, I'm going to do another show. And they're like, oh, great, you're doing this again.
Mm. Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
but they still show up. Um, Still, my mom would still be calling me, "How you feeling? How you doing?" And
Yeah.
sometimes I'd be crying. This is so hard, and she'd be like, "Well, then, like, stop." And I'm like, "Well,
Yeah.
no, like that." But I'd say probably the past like 2 years, I think they've become just like excited about it now.
That's great.
I Yeah, and I think it's because it's taken me a while to really just find my groove in it and find my balance of, kind of normal life into prep, and just kind of handling the stress of it better. So that's made them feel better. And, you know, they
Yeah.
they've seen it, it's more than just a hobby. It's, they're proud of how far I've taken it,
Great.
despite, I think, them seeing how hard it was for me in the beginning, but still like having that drive to just keep trying harder at it.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, they've kind of woken up to that. So I'm really lucky. And going to the Olympia, I had a huge cheering section for me.
That's awesome.
Family from all over the place that flew in, friends that flew in.
Wow. That's
There's
great.
there's a local gym I work out at and um, work at, and they had a live stream going on during
Oh
the
yeah.
Olympia,
Oh,
and
terrific.
yeah, it came home, and everybody at the gym, they were just like, "Man, you should have seen the gym when you were on stage," and everybody just stopped and circled around the TV to watch you, and
Really? Oh,
some
that's terrific.
people that worked out in the morning came back into the gym to see the live stream. So that's
Mm.
really something, you
Yeah.
know, that means a lot.
That's
People
cool.
are watching you and inspired by you and
Uh-huh.
want you to do your best.
That's awesome.
So
That's really special, I think, and that's nice. I have talked to some women where their parents weren't so supportive too, so it's kind of nice to have the support of your family too.
yeah, I mean, and I get it too. Like if I feel like if I had a daughter and she wanted to go into bodybuilding, I'd be a little nervous too
Mm.
for a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand. Um, I just had one more question for you. Do you find it kind of hard to juggle social media demands? Because I think it can be kind of hard um, as kind of a public figure to keep up with the DMs and the comments to your posts too.
Yeah, definitely. Some people really thrive off social media. I have a hard time with it.
Hmm.
Sometimes I really hate that, you have to pretty much have a social media now to be an athlete. You can't just be an athlete.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I mean, and it's hard because you want to respond to everybody, but, at the same time, it's only got so much energy to give out. And,
Hmm.
you know, especially when people are reaching out for advice, and it's okay, I can only take this, so far. But
Yeah.
there's just a lot of pressure that comes along with social media, and you kind of find yourself thinking like, even earlier today, I was just like, I haven't posted anything on Instagram in a while, I better get to that. And I'm like,
Uh-huh.
it's kind of another job for you.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and I would say I'm probably not the best at Instagram, but I also, that's just kind of a reflection of me, though. You're just getting a pretty realistic version of me. My captions are pretty straightforward to the point.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Just pictures here in my garage, and nothing fancy, no good angles because I don't know how to do that.
Okay. Sure, I
You
understand.
know, but at the same time, that's fine because that's who I am. I'm not you know flashy. I'm not about to start dancing in front of some protein powders or whatever, but
Okay.
take a picture
Sure.
with some protein powder and tell you about it. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's where it gets tricky. But
Sure.
um,
Understand.
I'd say, though, I've had a really positive experience with Instagram and social media. I've seen some really terrible
Hmm.
hate kind of come along
Yeah. Yeah.
to other people, and I've been very lucky and fortunate to not receive many negative comments to what I post or
That's good.
anything like that. Yeah, and
Mm.
I mean, I'm lucky, but some of that's really toxic, and
Yeah.
and
There's
even if you're a strong person and know that this is just somebody random that
Mhm.
doesn't even have a picture on their Instagram,
Mhm.
and it shouldn't even matter, it'll still kind of mess with you, especially when you're in a sport that's
Mhm.
revolves around what you look like.
Yeah. Yeah, I do feel like there's too many haters and kind of fit shaming on social
Yeah,
media, and it almost should be that's like anti-social media, I think, because it brings out the
right.
worst in people, you know.
And it's some people are pretty brutal out there, and
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, there's some mean people, and I think it kind of reflects on them, just being miserable people too. So, yeah.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
you just can't value your self-worth off of anything on social media. It's
Yeah.
literally just for fun, and if it,
Mhm.
inspires somebody or, motivating to somebody, then that's great. Otherwise, it's like I don't really care what else is going on there.
Yeah, totally. I think that's good philosophy on that, definitely. Um, so I'm just curious, is there anything that I should have asked you but neglected to that you'd like to bring up on the podcast?
Um, no, I mean that's pretty much me sitting here in my garage where a lot of this physique has been built. Um,
Yeah.
I'm always, pretty always kind of hyping it up. The 2-car garage with a lot of homemade equipment, a
Uh-huh.
lot of iron,
That's
a
great.
lot of barbells, and yeah. So this is always something I, kind of like to tell people about me. Is just a girl in her garage, just coming out in my backyard and lifting to the best of my ability, and like it's gotten me so far.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
I think it's a great backdrop for the podcast too, actually. It's cool.
yeah, yeah,
I like it. It's great.
yeah,
Um, so would you mind doing a quick flex for me before we end?
yeah. I gotta roll up my sleeves though, of course.
Oh yeah.
Here
You
for
look great.
that, and then
Wow, yeah, you look great. Yeah. Awesome.
thanks.
Thank you so much. And
Yeah, thank you.
thank you for being on the podcast. We'll get it posted relatively soon. And like I said, I'll make sure to post your IG and your coach's IG pages down in the comments. But thanks again. I appreciate it, Julia.
Yeah, thanks. It was great talking to you.
Nice talking with you too. Thank you.